Before we step into this journey, pause for a moment, take a breath, look around the room you're in right now. Now, imagine the same walls, the same ceiling, the same view outside your window, 100 years from now. Imagine yourself sitting here still, not aged, not wrinkled, not fading, still breathing, still alive. Welcome to Dreams of Tomorrow. Tell us in the comments where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. I wonder what time feels like for you now. For me, time has lost all shape. Tonight, we are stepping into a strange life, a life stretched beyond endings, a life without death. This is not the fantasy of glowing immortals and legends. It is not the perfection of eternal youth in fairy tales. This is the quieter, heavier version, the one that begins with wonder and ends with weariness. This is what it's like to be immortal and tired. It doesn't begin with a fanfare, no lightning strike, no divine announcement. It begins in silence, with a wound that should have killed you. Perhaps it was a fall from a horse. Perhaps a fever that swept through your town. Perhaps a blade pressed too deep against your ribs in a street brawl. But death does not come. The fever breaks, the wound closes. The fall leaves you bruised but breathing. You wait for weakness, for decline, but it never arrives. You heal completely. At first, you're grateful. You believe you're lucky, blessed, until the first one you love dies. You stand at the graveside of a friend, a parent, a sibling. Your hands are folded. Your eyes burn. Everyone around you is grieving, but you feel something different. They are grieving an ending. You are grieving a separation. Because in that moment, you know something they don't. You will still be here tomorrow. And the day after, and the day after that. And when the seasons turn, when the village changes, and the names of the houses shift, you will still be here. You feel it in your bones. You're not like them anymore. At first, you keep it to yourself, the secret. No one notices that you haven't aged, not yet. But inside, you count the days. And when the days stack into years, and the years into decades, you begin to see the difference. Your childhood friends grow older. Their hair turns white. Their skin softens, then sags. Their movements slow. You remain the same. A photograph frozen among moving film. They ask you what herbs you use, what prayers you whisper. They call you blessed, but then suspicion. Why don't you age? What pact have you made? Is it witchcraft? A curse? A sin? whispers grow louder than praise, and you learn your first rule of immortality. Never stay too long in one life. The first escape. So you leave a new town, a new name, a new story for your face. And with each beginning, you bury a piece of your past. You leave behind people who once knew you. You leave behind the sound of your childhood name. You leave behind the first grave, and the second, and the 100th, until centimeters feel more like home than houses ever did. The hardest part is not your own stillness. It is their fragility, the lovers you dare to trust, the children you dare to raise, the friends you dare to make, each of them temporary, each of them mortal. They tell you life is precious because it ends, but they never consider what it means when it doesn't. What happens when endings belong to everyone but you. You learn to smile at weddings, to nod at christenings, to toast at birthdays. But inside, you know the truth. You will attend their funerals too. Immortality changes your fear. When others flinch at danger, you do not. They may run, but you stand. When they beg for their lives, you remain still, because you have tested the edge of death, and it has bent around you. A soldier's spear, a thief's knife, a plague's breath. You have faced them all, and the pain is real, death is not. At first, this makes you reckless, brave, even powerful. But then you see the other side, the way others begin to fear you, the way they whisper your name like a curse. You cannot die, and that makes you, in their eyes, something less than human. The first loneliness. One evening, you sit by a fire. The logs crackle. The night is quiet, and for the first time you feel it, the emptiness of forever. You are young still, at least in your body, but inside, a shadow begins to grow. Because you realize this isn't a phase, not a lucky stretch of health, not a season of blessing. This is permanent. You will live, and live, and live, and the world will grow old around you. You're not blessed. You're not cursed. You are trapped. The sanctuary of wonder. It takes time before weight of eternity truly presses on you. At first it feels like freedom, because while others weaken, you remain. While others fade, you sharpen. While others surrender to the clock, you slip between its gears. You're not afraid of time. Not yet. You are drunk on it. Your first 100 years are a marvel. The world blossoms around you. Empires rise. Cities glitter with new stone. Ships stretch their sails to cross oceans once thought endless. And there you are, standing in the crowd, eyes bright as torchlight, watching history unfold. You learn languages as easily as others change shoes. You slip into guilds, monasteries, courts. You play roles like an actor, always changing, never aging. One lifetime, you are a scribe, another, a soldier, another still, a merchant with silver rings and a tongue sharp as steel. And each role feels fresh, each disguise exhilarating. You have time to try everything, time to taste every fruit, every song, every prayer. While others are bound by years, you are boundless. Art astonishes you most of all. You watch painters smear pigment on plaster and bring saints to life. You listen to musicians pluck strings to make air itself tremble. You see towers rise through heaven, stone by stone, impossible yet real. And the thought hits you again and again. I have time for this. Time to master harp. Time to copy scripture until every curve of ink feels like a heartbeat. Time to carve marble until it breathes beneath your hands. You do not need to rush. You can spend 20 years learning one craft, 50 years perfecting another, and still eternity yawns before you. So you dive in, and for a while it is glorious. The daring of travel. The world expands like a lung filling with air. Caravans stretch across deserts. Ships cut across the Atlantic. Roads reach through forests once thought cursed. And you, unchained by death, walk them all. You stand on cliffs in strange lands, smelling spices you cannot name. You see temples where the gods wear faces of gold. You touch stones older than the stories you were raised on. You become many things: a pilgrim, a wanderer, a scholar of maps no one else has drawn. For most, travel is a gamble. A fever in a foreign land can kill. A storm at sea can sink you. But you are not most. You survive it all. And that survival becomes its own key. Doors open for the one who does not fear risk. Fortune favors the one who cannot fall. The first pattern. But within the marvel, patterns emerge. You see styles repeat. Kings die, and their sons rise, only to fall the same way. Wars erupt, then fade, then erupt again. Different flags, same blood. At first, you laugh at the repetition. History rhymes, you say. By the end of the first century, you're less amused. Because you begin to realize what is new to others is already old to you. And what is wonder for them is deja vu for you. The first slip of the mask. You're good at pretending. Sometimes you slip. At a tavern, you mention the war that ended 100 years ago as if you were there. At a market, you hum a lullaby no one sings anymore. At gathering, you speak a dialect long vanished. People notice. Their eyes narrow, their smiles tighten. You laugh it off, make excuses, weave lies, but deep down you know your immortality is not invisible. It leaks, it shows. And so the second rule of eternity settles in your bones. Never speak too much of the past. By the end of the century, you carry a strange distance inside you. You love people still, their laughter, their clumsiness, their ability to burn bright before burning out. But you also watch them with a kind of detachment, like actors on a stage whose script you already know. You smile at their hopes, you nod at their fears, but inside you whisper, I've seen this before. This is not disdain. This is not cruelty. It is weariness hidden beneath wonder. And when the first century closes, you look back and realize you have seen more than any mortal was meant to. You have tasted more, touched more, remembered more. You have lived 100 lifetimes already, and yet your face in the mirror is the same as it was when you began. The same eyes, the same skin, the same illusion of youth. And that is when the first flicker of unease truly strikes. Because if 100 years feel heavy already, what will 1,000 feel like? The first cracks. Immortality is not a cliff you fall from. It is a slow erosion, a wearing down like water against stone. At first, you do not notice, but then small fractures appear. Hairline cracks in the illusion of joy. The first funeral broke you. The second wounded you. By the fifth, you thought you had learned how to grieve. But grief does not follow rules. Every loss is different. Every silence left behind has its own shape. And after decades, funerals begin to blur together. The priest's words, the smell of earth, the sound of weeping. You stand there again and again, sometimes as a neighbor, sometimes as a friend, sometimes as a spouse, but always as the one who does not leave with the dead. The living walk away. You remain always. Immortality teaches you a cruel kind of mathematics. If you love one person, you will bury them. If you love 10, you will bury 10. If you love 100, you will dig 100 graves in your memory. You do the sums late at night. What does it mean to love when the cost is always loss? What does it mean to hope when the ending is always written? Mortals say, it is better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. But they say that because they only lose once. You, on the other hand, lose forever. One evening, a friend you've known for decades looks at you strangely. They're old now, wrinkled, stooped, their hair like frost. You are unchanged. Why do you not age? They whisper. Their voice shakes, not with wonder, but with fear. You laugh, make excuses, but you see suspicion flicker in their eyes. And once suspicion enters, it never leaves. They distance themselves, or worse, they tell others. You hear the word in whispers. Witch, demon, cursed one. The third rule of immortality carves itself into your heart. Never stay close for too long. Lovers you can leave, friends you can outgrow, but children? Oh, children are different. You hold them in your arms when they are born. You guide their first steps. You teach them to read, to laugh, to live. And then they grow older than you. They wrinkle before you. They falter before you. They die before you. You bury children who once called you parent, grandchildren who once called you elder. And every time, something inside you breaks in ways words cannot mend. The worst part is not the death themselves. It is the goodbyes. Every decade, you must say farewell to someone who once shaped your world. Every decade, you lose another voice that once called your name. Mortals say goodbye as a door closing. For you, it is a door closing endlessly, hallway after hallway, until you no longer remember which door led to which room. And in that maze, you begin to lose yourself. It happens one morning. You wake, you rise, and first time in a century, you feel tired. Not the tiredness of body, that never comes, but the tiredness of spirit. The thought of another day, another century, another round of beginnings and endings. You dress yourself, you eat, you walk among others, but inside the question gnaws. What is the point? By now, you have learned to lie smoothly, to invent pasts, craft stories, slip into roles. But every lie is a wall, and behind those walls you're alone. You long to confess, to whisper to someone, I do not die, but to speak it is to risk exposure, and exposure is danger. So you stay silent, and silence builds another crack. One night you stand before a mirror. The candle flickers. Your face stares back, unchanged, unaged, unbroken. And for the first time, you hate it. You hate the smoothness of your skin, the sharpness of your gaze, the stillness of your form. Because it is not truth. It is a mask that has sealed itself to your bones. You long for a wrinkle, a silver hair, any sign that you are human still. But the mirror gives you nothing. And so, as cracks form and deepen, a question rises within you. If death will not claim you, what will? Will it be madness? Will it be despair? Will it be boredom so vast it swallows your soul? You do not know, but you fear that the cracks will widen until you are no longer whole, and eternity will not stop to help you. weight of memory. Immortality is not measured in years, it is measured in memories. And memories, when too many, become heavier than chains. At first, they are treasures, moments you hold like coins. The smile of a lover, the taste of a summer peach, the warmth of a fire on a winter night. You keep them safe, turning them over in your mind, polishing them until they gleam. But centuries change the meaning of memory. What was once treasure becomes burden. What was once gold becomes lead. Mortals live within the span of a single river. Their memories flow from birth to death, clear and finite. But yours is an ocean, endless, storm-tossed, impossible to navigate. At first you think you can carry it all, but memories multiply. They overlap, they tangle. The lullaby your mother sang begins to blur with one sung by a lover 3 centuries later. The laughter of a child in 1600 echoes against the laughter of another in 1800 until you no longer know which belonged to whom. Faces blur into one another, names slip through your fingers. You forget what belonged to what life, and the ocean drowns you. To save yourself, you begin to write journals, endless journals, leather bound, paper bound, ink stained. At first, it feels like salvation. Every memory captured, every thought preserved. But journals are fragile. They burn in fires, they sink in ships. They rot in damp cellars. You lose one, then 10, then 50, and with each loss, a piece of you vanishes. Because without the page, you cannot tell if the memory was real. Did you truly live with that family by the river in 1321? Or did you imagine it? Did you once fight in that war, or did you simply dream it? Without the record, your own past begins to slip from you. Sometimes you wake in the night with memories that don't belong to you. You are sure you remember standing at Caesar's side, or painting frescoes in Florence. But were you really there? Or did you read of it, hear of it, dream of it so vividly that it became yours? When you have lived long enough, even fiction becomes fact. You can no longer trust the walls of your own mind, and in that distrust, another crack forms. The faces you cannot keep. The hardest memories to lose are faces. A child's round cheeks, a lover's crooked smile, a friend's tired eyes. You try to hold them, repeat them, sketch them, describe them in ink, but eventually they fade. And when you try to call them back, what arrives is not a face, but a blur, a shadow, a ghost. You know you love them, but you now no longer know who they are. It feels like betrayal, as if immortality has turned you into a thief, stealing even from those you once cherished. By your 4th or 5th century, decades begin to collapse. You no longer remember whether you lived in Paris in the 1400s or the 1500s. Did you own a bakery or a bookshop? Were you a farmer that year or a monk or a soldier? Lifetimes begin to bleed into each other until they are indistinguishable. You lose the sense of sequence. That line of time becomes a knot, and in the knot, you lose yourself. You begin to write your own name on scraps of parchment. You whisper it to yourself at night. You carve it into wood and stone because you fear one day you will forget even that. What is an immortal without memory? A shell? A shadow? A body walking without a soul? You begin to wonder if the true death of immortality is not the body's end, but the mind's unraveling to repetition. Another cruelty emerges: repetition. You tell a story at a table, laughing at your own wit, only to realize you have told it before, to these same people last year and the year before. You repeat lessons to students you have already taught. You fall into habits you thought were new, and they notice. They whisper. They laugh kindly at first, then uneasily. You feel the weight of age in your mind, though not your flesh. You feel old, older than years can measure. Even happiness becomes fragile under the weight of memory. A song that once lifted your heart now feels like an echo of another song sung centuries ago. A lover's embrace feels like a copy of 100 others. A new discovery feels like something you've already found, already forgotten. The novelty is gone. And without novelty, joy dulls. You begin to wonder, is immortality the death of surprise? And still, pain remains sharp. You may forget laughter, but you never forget screams. You may blur faces, but you never blur deaths. The moment of loss is etched so deep that the silence after a goodbye cuts very sharp, and so your memory becomes unbalanced. The joy fades, and the pain endures. And you carry centuries of sorrow like stones in your chest. And yet, sometimes, forgetting is mercy. You cannot hold every detail, you cannot remember every loss, and so your mind begins to erase to save itself. You forget names, faces, details, but you keep the feelings, the warmth of a smile, the ache of grief, the faint echo of love. Imprecise, incomplete, but perhaps that is enough. One night, you return to the mirror. Your face is still smooth, your eyes are still clear, but behind them, a storm of memory churns. A library without order, a house filled with ghosts. You look at yourself and whisper, I'm tired. Not of life, but of memory itself. The curse of recognition. Immortality is not just about living forever. It is about hiding forever, because mortals notice. And once they notice, they do not forget. It begins innocently. You live in a town for 50 years. You work, you laugh, you make friends. But then, someone points it out. You look the same as when I was a child. At first, it is a joke. They laugh, you laugh, but laughter fades into silence, and silence hardens into suspicion. They begin to count the years. They remember the day you arrived. They compare you to portraits, stories, memories. And one evening, you hear the whisper. He does not age. He is not like us. And suddenly, you're no longer neighbor. You are a threat. So you learn the art of reinvention, a new name, a new birthplace, a new set of forged memories. You dye your hair, you change your walk, you alter your voice. Every few decades, you disappear and reappear. A cousin from another town, a distant relative, a traveler passing through. You leave behind everything: homes, friendships, sometimes even children, because to stay is to risk exposure. So the fourth rule of immortality is carved. Never let them notice. When suspicion grows too strong, fear turns to violence. In one sanctuary, they called you witch. In another, heretic. In another still, monster. You are dragged before priests, questioned by scholars, hunted by mobs. Your house is burned. Your name is cursed. And though you cannot die, pain is still pain. Loss is still loss. You learn to flee before fire finds you. You learn that survival means silence, and silence means loneliness. Lying becomes second nature. Your life is a stage, and you are forever the actor. But every lie costs you. Every false story severs you further from who you once were. You forget your real birthplace. You forget the sound of your true accent. You forget what your original name feels like on your tongue. You are 1,000 names, 1,000 masks, but no longer yourself. The risk of power. You learn quickly not to rise too high. If you become wealthy, they notice your strange youth. If you become famous, portraits betray your face. If you become powerful, rivals take into your past. So you live small, you dim your light, you make yourself ordinary. But inside, you are not ordinary. Inside, you are ancient. And the dissonance gnaws at you. In old days, hiding was simpler. People forgot, records were lost, paper burned. But in the modern age, photographs endure, documents persist, the internet remembers. A picture taken in 1850 can be compared to the one taken in 2020, and the likeness is undeniable. The world has grown smaller, and for you, more dangerous. You're no longer just hiding from neighbors, but from history itself. Sometimes you wonder, what if you revealed yourself? What if you stood before the world and declared, I am immortal, I do not die? Would they worship you, study you, feel you, destroy you? You imagine laboratories, cages, endless experiments. You imagine cults, governments, corporations, each wanting to own you. Would they worship you, study you, fear you, destroy you? You imagine laboratories, cages, endless experiments. You imagine cults, governments, corporations, each wanting to own you, to dissect you, to claim your eternity. So the answer is clear. Exposure is not freedom. Exposure is prison. So you remain silent again, always. Immortality does not exhaust through grief. It corrodes through repetition. At first, time felt like a banquet. Every dish, every flavor new. You tasted, devoured, delighted. But centuries pass, and the banquet becomes leftovers. The same foods reheated endlessly. The same songs remixed until they blur. The same dances, the same dramas, the same mistake. And boredom, deep, marrow deep boredom, seeps into your bones. At first, you kept track. Dates, seasons, festivals, calendars. But after centuries, days lose their edges. Winter bleeds into spring. Summer slips into autumn. One decade feels like another. You wake, you walk, you eat, you sleep, and then again and again. Mortals count time like coins. You count time like grains of sand, infinite, indistinguishable, sliding through your fingers. One night, you stand on a cliff, staring at the ocean. The waves crash, infinite, eternal. You realize this is what your life has become. A horizon without end, a tide without pause, a cycle without break. And for the first time, you whisper aloud, I am tired. The wind carries your words away. The sea swallows them. And still, the horizon stretches on. Immortality is not simply absence of death. It is the repetition of love, the repetition of loss. You may try to resist it. You may swear never to love again, but heart is reckless. It refuses eternity's logic. And so, again and again, across centuries, you fall. After your first heartbreak, you thought the wound permanent. You told yourself, never again. Why risk love when you already know the ending? But then, a glance, a voice, a kindness you did not expect. And against your own rules, you're drawn in. For a time, it is glorious. The laughter, the intimacy, the way another person makes your endless life feel smaller, more focused. For a time, you almost forgot the burden of centuries until the inevitable return. The face you love grows older, the body weakens, the breath slows, and you remain. Always you remain. The cruel pattern. It happens again and again and again. Each time you swear you will not repeat the mistake. Each time you swear you will not expose yourself to the pain of watching them fade. But the centuries are long. Loneliness gnaws deeper than fear. And so you risk it once more. Each time the pattern repeats. The bloom of infatuation, the comfort of years shared, the creeping shadow of time, the final goodbye, and then the silence. Love becomes not a gift, but a cycle you cannot break. Some centuries you attempt to live without love at all. You wall yourself off. You keep interactions shallow. You smile politely, never letting anyone close. You become traveler, stranger, observer, and for a while it works. No heartbreak, no loss, only solitude. But solitude is not peace. It is hunger, and sooner or later you reach for connection again. Because immortality without love is not survival, it is withering. Not all your partners are fooled. Some see it, the unchanging face, the unnatural youth. Some confront you, a few accept you, some even swear to keep your secret. But in those rare relationships, you taste something different. A love that knows the truth and chooses it anyway. But even that cannot save you, because knowledge does not hold time. Even the bravest lover cannot escape age. And so, once more, you bury them. Each new love carries the shadow of the old. You see echoes in gestures, in smiles, in tones of voice. A hand brushes yours, and you remember another hand centuries past. A kiss stirs a memory you had thought forgotten. You try not to compare, but how can you not? You carry centuries of reference, and they carry only their own brief lives. They think they are your first, your greatest, your only, and you smile and let them believe it, because to confess otherwise would shatter them. You try to time it carefully, to vanish before they notice you've not aged, to move on before the secret slips. But timing is never perfect. Sometimes you stay too long, sometimes they say too much, and when they do, the love that once sustained you curdles into fear. They pull away, or worse, they expose you, and you must run again, carrying not only heartbreak but danger. And yet, despite the grief, despite the risk, love still brings light. The warmth of a hand in winter, the sound of laughter in a quiet room, the way even a century-old sorrow softens when someone new calls your name. Those moments matter. They keep you tethered. They remind you that even in eternity, intimacy is possible. Without them, you would have drifted into a shadow long ago. Sometimes, when love is deepest, a partner whispers the question, "Will you die before me?" And you freeze, because the answer is always no, but you cannot say it. So you lie. You say yes. You promise them you are mortal too. And in the end, when they lie dying and you do not, you carry not only grief but guilt, because the last thing you gave them was a lie. Mortals imagine immortality as romance, two lovers walking through centuries, unchanged together. But you know the truth. There is no eternal couple, only one eternal witness, and one mortal who must be buried over and over. Immortality does not preserve love, it multiplies its funerals. Immortality does not freeze the world around you, it only freezes you. The world changes faster than you can sometimes bear. And one day you realize eternity has not left you timeless. It has left you behind. The first shocks of progress. At first, progress excites you. You remember when light was only fire, when travel was only foot, horse, or sail, when words were carved, not printed. And then, suddenly, machines hum. Railways cut through mountains. Books spill from presses by the thousands. You marvel, you adapt, you think. Immortality is a gift, for I can witness it all. But progress does not stop. It does not slow for you. And what was once wonder becomes vertigo. You spend decades mastering a language. You speak it fluently, live in it, dream in it. And then 1 century later, that language is gone, dead, forgotten, replaced by another. You become a foreigner in the very lands you once called home, an exile in your own memory. You spend 50 years learning medicine. You become healer, surgeon, sage. And then a few decades later, your knowledge is obsolete, your cures outdated, your techniques laughed at. You begin again, study anew, but always progress runs ahead, and you are forever chasing it. Immortality does not make you wise, it makes you outdated again and again. There comes a moment when the pace of change outruns you. Perhaps it is the telephone, perhaps the internet, perhaps the sudden leap into a digital world where even your sharp mind struggles to keep pace. You feel clumsy. You feel old, not in body, but in spirit. And for the first time, you realize immortality does not mean you will always belong. It means you will eventually be left behind. Mortals dream of the future as a place of excitement. You see it as a place of alienation. The clothes strange, the music noise, the customs unfamiliar. You try to adapt. You learn the slang, the technology, the codes. But there is always something you do not understand. A joke that makes no sense. A device that feels like magic. A rhythm you cannot dance to. You're eternal, but Eternity is not enough to make you belong. Paradoxically, as the world expands, yours shrinks. You avoid records. You avoid cameras. You avoid attention. And so, while humanity spreads to the stars, invents miracles, lives louder than ever, you grow quieter. You slip into shadows. You keep your world small. Because the larger the stage, the more dangerous the spotlight. One night, you walk through a city blazing with light. Screens flash, cars scream, skyscrapers glitter like glass mountains. You are surrounded by thousands of people, and yet you feel utterly alone. Because this is not your world anymore. It has raced past you, left you stranded, and you realize immortality is not a gift of belonging everywhere. It is a curse of belonging nowhere. The temptation of ending. Immortality is not only about survival, it is about temptation. And the greatest temptation, after centuries of wait, is not life but death. The first whisper. It begins as a whisper. One night you sit alone. The fire burns low. The silence presses close. And you think, what if I could end it? The thought is shocking, almost blasphemous. You who have outlived plagues and wars, who have survived every wound, dreaming of surrender. But once thought, it cannot be unthought. The whisper lingers. It follows you from century to century. The experiments. You test the limits. A blade to your chest. A leap from a cliff. The slow poison of a vial. Each time your body heals. Each time death retreats. But with every survival, despair deepens. Because you realize, even when you want to end, you cannot. Your curse is not only to live forever, it is to live forever against your will. You begin to envy mortals, not their youth, not their strength, but their endings. They complain of old age, they fear death, but you see the gift in it. To die is to rest. To die is to finish the story. To die is to hand the weight back to the earth. You long for that gift, but it will never be yours. You seek release in myth and science alike. You climb mountains to ask sages how to unbind the soul. You kneel before priests begging for a prayer that will undo eternity. You study poisons, rituals, forbidden arts. You sit in laboratories, letting needles pierce your skin, hoping some experiment will undo you. But nothing works. Always you heal, always you rise, always you remain. And the more you search, the more hopeless it becomes. And so the forbidden thought grows louder. If life will not let me go, perhaps I must force it. You imagine cutting deeper, burning hotter, finding ways nobody could heal from. You imagine walking into the core of a volcano, drowning in the deepest trench of the sea, standing before the muzzle of modern weapons, daring them to erase you. But courage falters. What if you survive? What if you endure even that? The temptation of ending becomes another prison, a dream you cannot fulfill. One day, you wake and realize it is not just death you crave, it is rest. Rest from memory, rest from lies, rest from repetition, rest from the endless march of years. It is not destruction you seek, it is silence. But silence does not come. And then, strangely, the longing itself becomes calm. You no longer beg for death. You no longer fight against eternity. You simply live with the knowledge there will never be an end. And in that acceptance, something changes. The temptation remains, the dream of ending still lingers, but you carry it like a stone in your pocket, always present, never released. It is both weight and anchor. For as long as you hold the dream of ending, you still know what you want. And that desire is the last thread of your humanity. The long silence. There is a silence that comes after centuries. Not the silence of death, not the silence of graves, but the silence of endurance. The silence of one who has lived too long. You once thought eternity would feel vast, a horizon stretching forever, an endless garden of possibility. But now you know the truth. Eternity is not wide, it is circular. It repeats again and again. New faces, new wars, new inventions, new loves. But beneath it all, the same patterns, the same endings, the same ache. Eternity is not infinite variety, it is infinite return. Inside you is a museum no one can visit, a gallery of ghosts, rooms filled with voices that no longer exist. You walk past its halls at night. You pause before exhibits of faces you half remember. You whisper names like prayers, hoping they echo. But the doors are locked. No one else can enter, no one else can see. You are curator of a museum without visitors, the keeper of a past that has no audience. The world races on, you do not. You are the fixed point, the still shadow at the center of centuries. And that stillness is heavier than stone, because while others are shaped by time, you resist it. And in resisting, you become hollow. You're not progress, you are pause. And so the greatest truth emerges. Immortality does not make you strong. It does not make you wise. It does not make you divine. It only makes you hungry. Hungry for what you cannot have. Hungry for an ending that defines a story. Without an ending, the story unravels. Without an ending, the story is not a story at all. It is only noise, only blur, and you are tired of blur. Some nights you dream of rest, a bed in a quiet room, a candle flickering low, a breath that leaves your body and does not return. No trumpets, no drama, only rest. And in that dream, you're happy, not because you lived forever, but because you finally stopped. You wake, of course, you always wake, but the dream lingers like a memory of a lullaby. And for a moment, it is enough. And now, here you are, listening to my voice, imagining yourself immortal. Perhaps you envy it. Perhaps you fear it. Perhaps you think you would use it better. But I tell you this, immortality is not the escape you think it is. It is not the freedom you long for. It is not power. It is not glory. It is weariness stretched thin across centuries. It is longing without resolution. It is hunger without satisfaction. It is to live and live and live until living itself becomes the heaviest burden. So, as you drift to sleep tonight, ask yourself, would you choose it? Would you choose to walk forever, knowing every joy will turn stale, every love will end, every memory will fade, every century will blur, and still you will remain? Would you choose to be immortal and tired? Thank you for joining us on this journey through endless time. If you made it to the end, leave an hourglass emoji in the comments and tell us, would you want immortality or would you choose an ending? Until next time, sleep well and remember, every story needs its final page.